Have you tried the Instagram filter?
What Instagram filter?
There are two filters, okay? There's one which is cropped to look like the hardware concept photo. So there's like a little lip piercing and then the eyebrow piercings. And then there's
Was it
another.
by Big Hit?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
is it like someone made it?
No, 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 it is by Big Hit. And then
Okay.
there's another one, which is like the front cover of the album. So it's got like the little droplets,
Uh,
except, and they've not mentioned this anywhere. When you use the filters, the song is already inlaid.
oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
It's so cool, except you're like perpetually being attacked.
Hi, we are.
Nuna talk.
I'm Sophia.
I'm Zara, and who was prepared for this day? I like in my mind, I feel like we've talked about Jimin's solo album,
Since like
PGM1.
2018, it's
Yeah,
been a
forever,
thing.
forever.
Hmm.
And the fact that we're actually here discussing all the tracks today.
Look how far we've come as a society.
But before we get into the entire discussion of the album of the year, let me just
Hmm.
say that. Let me just, we'll call it now.
Show it
Everybody
out
else go
there.
home. We are Nuna Talk, a podcast where we talk about K-pop, K-drama, K-culture, K-beauty, anything that you need to know, especially if you're a Desi stan. But even if you're not, you're very welcome to listen to us. We are here on YouTube where you can watch our video version and like this video because you're watching it. You like it. Duh. Subscribe for more videos like this. You can also follow us on Instagram for a lot of unrelated but still interesting content, especially giveaway coming soon. We are also on every podcasting platform like Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and a variety of other things. And I think that's enough. Let's just talk about Jimin.
Let's get into it because yeah,
We
no
have
wasting
thoughts.
time.
Get into it, yeah.
So I think what we'll do is first we'll give our like maybe initial thoughts, like
Hmm.
first thing that came to your mind, where were you when this happened, all of that.
Where were you
This
when you were
historical
attacked by
moment.
like crazy?
Exactly, all of that. And then we'll break it down with production, lyricism, themes, tracks. If you can guess what our favorite songs are going to be, let us know in the comments and also tell us your favorite tracks. What did you think the theme was? Like when we got the teasers, we got Set Me Free Part 2. I think that we've done a reaction to that, which you should check out. All of that happened. So, what did you expect? Like in a brief manner, what did you think you were going to
Not this. Not this
get?
at all. I feel like
Mhm.
just given the fact that it was called Face and the concept photos, I did know it would be a lot more introspective and not
Hmm.
nostalgia driven, but like based on what I used to be type of thing. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
the other solo members' work has also reflected very similar themes.
Hmm.
So that is something I did go into thinking about this, but not like this.
Yeah, I think whatever Jimin has talked about the album in the past 2 years, whenever he's given interviews and stuff, so he did always talk about how it's going to be a very insightful, very explicit. But I think a lot of people took explicit to be sexual, whereas this is explicit in the sense of very raw and very like
It's not the
internal.
other. It's not explicit.
It's not explicit, but it's like a broad spectrum of what explicit is. It's not like Kai telling you that he's gonna come over, and this is like Jimin saying that hey, this is going
Mm,
on. So I think I thematically it is what I expected. What I
hmm.
didn't expect, I think the genres was something that
It was a
for
big
me was
surprise.
completely unexpected, especially Set Me Free Part 2. Start with production.
Honestly, it was one of the best produced albums in a very long time for me. And a lot of that, of course, goes into the fact that it gives into a lot of my personal interest. So, like, I really like, inventive instrumentation. It had a lot of that. I
Hmm.
grew up on 90s R&B. It had a lot of that.
Hmm.
I love P Dog. It had a lot of that.
Yeah, I think when they dropped the track list and we saw just P Dog and Ghost Loop all over the credits, I think that's when I realized that this is, and I think that was kind of expected. Where it sounded like if you look at a BTS album, I think this is what sounded the most like a
Hmm.
BTS album in terms of production. If you listen to Love Yourself, Her, or
Hmm.
Map of the Soul, Persona, this is the closest. But so this felt like a BT, like this could have been a BTS album for me. Of course, it isn't because it has Jimin. So
Yeah.
really think, I think in terms of production, I think the genre was it's very modern. It's very like so it's P Dog and Ghost Loop. If you've been keeping up with their work, they're schools of hip hop and R&B at this point. So you see a lot of trap soul elements. You see a lot of modern R&B. The Weekend production, if for like Crazy, was very obvious. Even for Set Me Free Part 2, this was very like a Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar kind of a production. So I think those inspirations were very evident, but it did feel like a copy, but like it felt like a part of the culture, and that was
Hmm.
very fascinating to me because it's never been this like this could just not be a Korean album. This could be from anywhere in the world, and this could definitely be an American production.
But yeah, you're right. With something like Crazy, every time I do hear the snippet or watch all the dance reels that have been made, uh, please go watch them. Lee Hyun is clearly the cutest
Oh, there's
so
a
far.
Lee one. I haven't seen
Um,
that yet.
if I don't pay attention to what the vocals are, it almost gives me Dua Lipa nostalgia.
Which is what like the 80s thing that Weekend kind of brought
Hmm.
back in the past year.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the second thing, which I think is what really sets this album apart, is Jimin's vocals and his use of the vocalization, because I think that is what makes all of these songs something like you've never heard before in a genre that you've heard before.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like, again, well established in this entire year of us doing this podcast, I am not a vocal enthusiast. It's not something I look out for. It's not something I'm like is my important facet. But someone like Jimin, who has the ability of molding his vocals the way that he has and
Mhm.
displaying it so wonderfully all throughout Face. I think something like where if you look at Face Off and Set Me Free Part 2 have very distinctly different vocal timbers
Mhm. Yeah.
and very different octaves that he sings at, and there's like
Mhm.
it's just very
And the
clever
throw is
music.
so different, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's very, very cleverly used. The fact that
Hmm.
he's able to do that within one album is insane.
Yeah. It is, and especially if you look at the contrast of that with something like Letter or Alone, where it's like there's a lot of breathiness, there's a lot of delicate work with the vocals as opposed to the
Yeah.
very strong. And especially, I think in Alone, it's very interesting where it's two tracks and you can hear it. There's falsetto Jimin and there is like deeper vocal Jimin,
Yeah.
which are just throughout. It's done constantly, and I mean, obviously, we know that Jimin is a really good vocalist and we have heard them over the years. But this, to me, when I heard this album, I felt like, wow, he's really put in work. He's really worked very hard in the past few years
Hmm.
to get
Enhance
here.
his skills. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And used the spectrum. And I think that also with working with a producer that has known the journey of
Hmm.
your voice and knows your
Yeah.
strength. So, something, the kind of Jimin you might hear in Dope
This is
or
exactly
Idol.
what Yoongi said in Suchita as well.
Yeah, that is true. I was like, yeah, Yungi, I agree. So, they will know how to use your voice better, or they might have had this vision for your voice. Let's talk about like lyrics and themes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's probably the hardest one to get into because so much of it is heavy metaphors. Not heavy necessarily, but it is metaphorical. A lot of it is
Hmm.
very deep personal thoughts. It honestly at some points felt a lot of like it may have been cathartic for Jimin to just put these thoughts down to paper. I feel
Hmm.
like it's so hard to sit and analyze as a completely independent party about these lyrics because they just come from they feel very
Very
genuine, like
personal. Yeah,
yeah.
it feels like a diary entry almost. And
Hmm.
often when you write a diary entry yourself, you wouldn't give too many context clues. It will be more like a emotional, like you said, catharsis. Where like this is what I'm feeling, but we don't get a background around it while listening to this song. But obviously, Jimin has talked about thematically. I think he has talked about it where it was about his struggles, about everything that he went through during the pandemic. He had relationship issues, friendship, whatever issues, and like he was drinking a lot. And I think I don't know. There was definitely it could be used as a metaphor, but it was also. I mean, he did say that a lot of the lyrics are direct, and he doesn't beat around the bush. So to me, it felt like a lot of the songs and
Hmm.
a lot of the themes were about coping,
obviously alcohol as one of the tools of coping,
Hmm.
but a lot of it was like coping mechanisms of whatever you're going through. So I think that journey of knowing that there's something wrong with you and kind of trying to ignore it and just like dealing with your whatever fast food way of just dealing with shit without actually acknowledge and healing and putting, doing that and pushing it aside until a point where it's like I'm done. Like it, like alone kind of felt like a place of acceptance to me, and set me free was just okay, I'm done with this now, I'm gonna let all of these thoughts and feelings and emotions go and get out of it. And which is why I think letter was very interestingly placed, where you can just call it a bonus or an extra track, but it felt more like of a gratitude for the people who were there during this journey, kind of.
People to stick around.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yes,
Valid.
lyrically, it was
Hmm.
very, very beautiful and very lovely that he said this. I don't think they're necessarily profound lyrics. I don't think it's like I haven't had that experience where I'm reading the lyrics and being like, wow, what clever use of like space that you had. No, I haven't
Hmm.
done that, but it has definitely been very, very meaningful and very thought, not
True.
provoking, but like it comes from a place of thought.
Very relatable,
It's not
honestly.
on the floor.
It was very relatable to me, honestly. Like, it was a very human experience. Something like Face Off felt like, you've been betrayed by somebody. Someone took all your money, first of all, who is scamming Jimin off of his money.
Yeah, who is doing that?
Yeah. And I think for me, lyrically,
That
Alone
what
was.
happened, the dumpling incident? Is that what they've been sanitizing and calling it?
No, he definitely talked about it at Suchita, where he was like, it's hard to have friendships and like makes sense. And then someone pulled out old like interviews as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
where
where
he
he
was
was like,
like,
"Oh, I can't be friends with people without
yeah,
having to
so I
pay
always have to
them."
give something.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think BTS do talk about how friendships are difficult for them, but I mean, not to like minimize their pain, but
minimize
it's
their
difficult for
problems, but friendships
everyone.
are hard
Yeah,
for everyone.
everyone. It's not because you're rich, okay? It's fine.
It's not just because you're rich.
Yeah, like Crazy for me, lyrically was the best because it was relatable, but the most relatable because it's like, yeah, everything sucks, but I kind of just want to have fun, so don't try to like save me.
Harsh my vibe. I feel like in terms of just lyrics and not like the actual end product or anything, I think Alone really was, of course, brilliant. It's like how I claimed Lonely before Indigo came
Yeah.
out. I really also really liked Alone. But
If you guys
not,
didn't know,
and not
Zora's
in
a
the sense that it
former
was
emo
relatable.
kid.
Former rude. I was willing to like fly to New Zealand to watch my Chemical Romance perform.
But yeah.
But yeah, no. Alone, I enjoy the lyrics not because of relatability. I just thought it was, for me, like very personally, being vulnerable is a really hard thing to do. I think it's again a
Hmm.
common universal experience. Vulnerability is hard, and
Hmm.
for him to do that and put it on such a public platform was just something I was like shocked and amazed at.
Yeah.
Um, so not inspired by. Let's be clear, this is a fortress. But yeah, no, I really like the lyrics for Alone.
Okay, I'll tell you a con, which when we were discussing, like you said, the sequencing, because you said Set Me Free comes out of nowhere. And for me, it made sense thematically, but like the more I listened to it, I felt not that it should be placed differently, but I thought maybe a connecting song or an interlude between them would have
Yeah, like I
interlude,
feel like
not
you
another
can't go
song.
from Alone to Set Me Free. That's too harsh a jump.
Yeah. And but what I really liked about this is technically if you cut out all the extra songs, remixes, English versions, whatever, it's a 5 song, it's 4 song, one interlude, that too album. But it does a very good job of delivering a story. Like it's very concise. Yeah.
Something we haven't talked about in this so far is Like Crazy's MV.
Oh yeah. Let's talk. Yeah, let's get into both the MVs.
I mean, we've talked about Set Me Free's MV. I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm,
is one of
hmm.
our longest MV reactions ever.
That
Please
is
go check
true.
it out if you haven't
It's a
already.
whole podcast episode.
It's an entire podcast episode, and let's not make Like Crazy like that. But still, it was incredible.
Hmm.
I think any like we said this before as well, Park Jimin is just high concept. That's
Yeah.
just facts. He's very, very high concept. Every shot, every frame, every outfit was very carefully curated and thought about, and you could tell that it
Yeah.
really came through. And it wasn't, I feel like, with a lot of solo artists, especially with their first album, have this whole thing where they want to show themselves as really cool, really sexy, really something like some exaggerated
Hmm.
awesome version of themselves. Which, I mean, of course, Park Jimin also did that. I don't know why I have to say his full name, but
Yeah.
it's he
He's
also
done
does.
crimes.
Yeah, he's also done that. But with Like Crazy, just the MV, I think it was so it
Pulled
just
back.
it was so real.
Hmm.
It felt so real, like that entire thing in the bathroom where he like looks at himself in the reflection and slides down. Like we
Yeah.
have all
We've
done
all
that.
been there. Yeah.
We have
And then the
really
room
all,
kind of expands and you're like, oh
yeah,
shit.
we have
I want to
all
go
done.
home.
I mean, of course,
Hmm.
there's so much on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube where they've really broken down the MV per scene to sort of
Themes.
go
Yeah.
into the metaphor. And I don't
Hmm.
want to do that because
Okay.
I just don't.
Okay.
Something
Valid.
about Bangtan MVs has taught me just like it never means one thing.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of the vagueness of this album, while it is a very it's a very clear story, it also leaves a lot up to interpretation. But yeah, like Namjoon said in the Indigo film, where the best piece of art is something that's the most personal, and then it's also the most universally relatable. So I think it leaves space for interpretation, where anyone who's had a journey, personal journey towards anything, can kind of apply this to themselves. But like, yeah, like Crazy MV was very like relatable.
Yeah, and it was very well done and
Hmm.
very here for all the representation.
Hmm. And it was very it was also very cool where it kind of felt like the cyclical nature of going
Yeah,
down things where even alone, even like Crazy, I think both of these songs kind of emphasize that. But the fact that he is the one who has the muddy hand and he only pulls himself when he comes back and then he's like remove it.
I loved,
But
yeah, it was very
hmm.
well done.
I haven't even
Okay.
seen the movie. It'd be cool to
I
check that
have.
out.
I have. It's very cute and has nothing to do with anything. It's just
Okay.
they locked him in a room, said 16 minutes गाने चलेंगे, कर लो जो करना है.
So, if you had to compare this to Indigo and Jack in the Box, what would you say is different and what is similar?
Similar is, of course, the narratives. I feel like that's something that's
High
really,
concept.
yeah. No, 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 not
Yeah.
just the high concept, but like the
Hmm.
narrative of the story. Like the story is
Okay.
like started from nothing, now we're here, started from the bottom, now we're here. And what
Okay.
the individual journeys of all of their started from the bottom has been, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's been very evident in all of their solo work so far.
Mm-hmm.
What is different is genre. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, June sort of dabbled in it, I think, just with Like Crazy. I mean, we talked about this earlier as well, but like the fact that the instrumentals and the background music is
Hmm.
80s synth, but
Hmm.
he's
Jimin.
singing, yeah, but Jimin's singing
R&B.
R&B,
Hmm.
but like think like Mad by Neo. That's literally, I kept trying to think of other songs. I can't think of other songs that it reminds me of. But Mad by Neo and something like Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and you've mixed them together, and that doesn't make sense in your head. But in
Also, if
Like
you're
Crazy,
born after the 2000s, you have no idea what any of this
okay,
is.
but go listen to these songs. They're amazing.
For me, I found it thematically very different than the other two. I feel like the other two were more of a collection of thoughts and journeys, whereas this felt like very concise, a very singular thought. It felt similar to Mono to me, where it was just like this one emotion and the entire journey of that, versus like Jack in the Box and Indigo, which is like a bunch of things that went down and you kind of talked about all of them versus just one thing. But I think, and another thing, yeah, you're right. Just the genre was so. For me, I honestly expected a more pop heavy album. Like, not gonna lie, I expected R&B, maybe something like Face Off, but I expected more pop, some serendipity, maybe. I mean, that is closer to R&B.
Mm. Is what is your favorite track? And I'm including all of it. I'm including the remixes as well
How? Okay,
because
first of all, props to whoever did the remixes. They
the
slap
Deep
so
House,
hard. Deep House remix eats.
they slap
Eats.
so hard. The Deep House
Hmm.
one, I like, is not something I have ever like. House is just not a genre
Not
I
your
enjoy.
genre.
But
Hmm.
like, oh, if I was in America, you know that I would be in West Hollywood being like, play that song, Deep House,
Yeah,
woo!
even the garage mix
You
I think
know.
was very interesting, where the outro is so well. Oh, it really fits the garage sound. It's yeah. So for me, Like Crazy is my favorite song of everything because it's so good. You keep the listenability value of that song is so high. You can keep listening to it. Original version, English version is also really good, and it also I think that's a big thing where they've managed to pull off an English version that doesn't sound awkward or weird, which is a
Mm.
big feat. But Like Crazy is my favorite song. I love everything about it. What about you?
Letter. Yeah, it's I have heard it on repeat. I've heard horrible recorded versions of it because MP3s weren't out immediately. But and I don't it's not because like I'm a crazy G Cook shipper or anything like that.
What does
I
that have to
mean,
do with it?
that played a very small part in me actually enjoying it.
Oh,
I love their
hmm.
harmonies and I love how well their voices do work
Work
together. I think
together.
that's a really well done thing. But it was
Hmm.
just typical Jimin, not to like discredit the work and evolution that he's clearly done, but
Hmm.
it was just so beautiful.
Comfort song, yeah.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
you, and I feel like with everything else, more or less, I do have to be in a certain frame of mind to be able to enjoy it. With Letter,
Mhm.
whenever it's come on, I'm like, yep, go, yep. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think even lyrically, we didn't really talk about it, but it refers to so many of BTS. It refers to C, which is so crazy. Like, how is your hidden track referring to the hidden track on
Another hidden
another
track.
BTS album? Yeah, the reference to Anpan Man, reference to Blue and
Hmm.
Grey, and it is a song for fans, but it is also a song for the members who were there for him through his tough times. So yeah, I
Which
get
was
it.
very sweet. I think
It
it's
was.
all the history and things that get come together for me
Hmm.
to really be able to appreciate this track. So that was all of Jimin's Face first debut album. Still not really like,
Congratulations
oh
for
yeah,
his
so proud.
for everything. Like he's already got us. He's the first Korean artist to have a Spotify number one.
That's what I mean. Like, great job. And honestly, even if it wasn't
Hmm.
pulling the numbers that it did, even if it was absolutely bombing and tanking, the
It
fact that you're
wouldn't, but
able to
yeah.
create something, yeah, it wouldn't. Like, but like the
Hmm.
fact that you're able to create something, put it out there,
In a
that's all.
year, like he started in 2022, it's already out. That's
I know
incredible.
people are like, oh, it took me 10 months, boo hoo. Okay. And it takes me 10 months to decide what I'm going to do with my hair next. But no, so this was all our breakdown and our very, very few thoughts that we've had about
That's
Face so
true.
far.
We
Because
held
we
everything
know, yeah, we
back.
can't fit everything in 36 minutes. Let us know in the comments below if you agreed with our analysis. And if you didn't, tell us what was different. We want to know
And
what
what
your
were your
favorite
favorite songs? Yeah.
yeah, in this we include the deep house and garage mix and the and letter. We're here for it. And
Hmm.
are we should we expect more remixes? I don't know what's
I hope
happening.
so. I'm here for it. Like I'm down for a slow jam remix.
Remember to like this video and subscribe to us for more such videos. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meanwhile, remember to go to our Instagram account at NoonaTalk, exactly like it sounds, for a giveaway around this entire like Jimin thing. Come on, like go check it out. We will be back
Okay,
next
go
week.
stream
I was
face.
Zara.
I was Sophia. Bye.